All right, so the first item under my report is an odd one. It's a grand piano discussion, and I don't know that it has to be a discussion. It's just something that kind of wanted some direction on. Back in 1990, we purchased a grand piano, a Baldwin 1962 grand piano for $7,200, I think we looked up top. We're at the point where the minute you start playing it, it immediately goes out of tune, and it actually needs to be remanufactured and reconditioned. The cost of that is about $49,000 to remanufacture it. They would haul it out, they would work on it, bring it back to us. And I sent you the proposal of the company. They referenced that a new one is about $200,000. But the amount of time that we use that instrument or would use that instrument, I don't know that it's worth repairing it at $49,000. And it's one of those things that our music teachers have said, listen, not many school districts around have a grand piano, so the music people in us would love to get it fixed. But we also recognize that it's $49,000 to repair it. So right now, it simply sits on our stage. We can't get it through the doors. So it stays on the stage right now, off to the side. It's actually on the back, covered up, covered with dust. We do have a baby grand piano that we use. That's always in the pit when we have chorus concerts or concerts. And that is religiously used, and that probably will need some tuning as well, but that's a routine thing. The last time we had it tuned was the Keystone Band, the grand piano.
Oh yeah, that was your fault.
By the time they were done with the concert, it was out of tune. So it was basically spending thousands of dollars for one, hour-long show. So
is it the baby grand? Or
it's the grand one. The baby grand is in fine condition. It's just this grand piano. And I kind of wanted, before I necessarily gave some direction to our music teacher, I just wanted to make sure that I'd be giving the right direction.
How often is it used or actually could be used?
Yeah, if it was fixed, would it be used on a regular basis, or?
You might be able to answer that.
So the other part of this is with our new stage, we will really only need one piano. So we most likely, that baby grand would either go to the choral suite. We'd have to get rid of the piano at some point. If it was fixed, they would use it for 6 concerts a year. It's mainly just concerts. They're usually.
would the music teachers be satisfied with just the baby grand? Has anyone asked? Yeah.
What does a baby grand piano cost you? Any idea?
I don't even know.
When I was looking them up, it was in the $60,000 ballpark.
What is the piano worth?
It depends who the buyer is.
Yeah.
We looked them up, and they're everywhere from $7,000 to what we bought it to fully reconditioned everything, $175,000.
So you'd be better off reconditioning it and selling it.
Yeah, and I don't know if we get that. I don't know what the market is in for grand pianos.
That would be a gamble.
Yeah, you'd have to have the right buyer for that.
You said it's a 1962?
Baldwin, yeah.
And we bought it in the 90s?
We bought it in the 90s. And I'm not sure I don't even know the background behind how we bought it, where we bought it,
I
when
don't
we
know
bought
that.
it.
That's all, it's in our financial system, in our asset system. That's what it says. But in the 1990s, we were $7,300. That's all I know. I can't go back to the record.
Don't want us to put that in inflation calculator, see what it would be today.
But
You know what I mean? It could be really in perspective, yeah.
Does anybody ever take lessons on the band side?
We do keyboarding courses, so kids do learn that, but it's all through the keyboards, it's not pianos.
I don't know, my motor theater restored it.
Because I'm with Rusty, if you restore, at least you can sell it, and you'll probably get out of it at least what you put into it, maybe more. You know, it's just basically a big paperweight the way it is now.
And it's, that's in essence, that's what it is right now, because we're not using it. And I'm not sure, but even, there's no, so right now, we cannot get it out of the stage. Would they be able to even use it on stage for chorus concerts?
In the future, yes, it's well, the garage door.
Will we be
It'll
able
always
to-
be on stage too.
Yeah, it always have to be on stage, yeah. We'll never put it in the pit. We
We
won't be able
won't have
to.
it.
How do
Well,
you get
you
it
gotta
outright?
just-
How do you get it outright
You
now?
have to take the legs off of it.
Yeah, you have to
So they'll
take the legs
disassemble
off
it.
and they
And
tip
then
it
turn it
sideways.
over.
There.
Turn it sideways.
And the scope of the work, I mean, basically, all the inners are gonna have to be gutted anyway, so to turn it on sideways at this point is not a big deal, but
And just for dumbness, did we get any other quote?
no, that was the one. This is the company we usually use to, so the last time he tuned it, this was the quote that we got. And we can pursue that. I just didn't wanna put that time or chase that if we weren't interested in.
Unfortunately, even churches nowadays are not, they're going electronic. So when pianos start going to that great of expense, churches are not going. Just buy a keyboard, and you can make it sound like whatever type of piano, organ, you want it to keep it.
So it would just be used for concerts, that's it. So there really wouldn't even be any benefit for the students as a whole, except at the concert itself.
And the baby grand, would that get used a lot more times in the music room, or would that just be sitting there?
She currently has an upright, very nice young hall upright, so she would in essence replace that with. So the baby grand would get used a lot if you're just swapping.
You're just swapping it.
Swapping.
So really, it's not needed.
Right. We'll have plus one pianos in essence.
That answers my, for me, that answers the
Yeah.
question. I don't think it's just.
Yeah. That's what
I mean, what we could do is we could inquire what if we were to fix it, what could we sell it for? And then,
You could, but again, you need to
It's a
make sure
gamble.
we have somebody, it's a gamble. It's a huge
Yeah.
gamble for, you know, if it were.
Maybe the guy that tunes it would know like what's other people out there interested in buying it. Because I
Right.
mean, grand pianos are far and few between them.
Right.
So,
We found the right person.
yeah.
It's a sale farm too, also. Put it on GovDeal, see what happens, if you don't bring it up.
2 years ago, we had somebody who was willing to donate a baby grand piano to us, and our staff just wasn't, they weren't interested in it. And the person said, I can't get rid of it, like, I don't know what to do, like, I'm gonna scrap it because nobody wants this
One that worked,
one that worked.
but if they didn't want one that worked, there's no sense fixing one that
Right.
doesn't, is my opinion. I mean, they could have had one that worked.
That was a baby.
That was a baby grand.
Okay.
It was, and the essence was, we already have a baby grand, and it, you know, we all, each one of our music groups have upright pianos.
Maybe just check with the guy that tunes it and see what his thoughts are.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the,
At least reach out to another outfit, see if they're close or.
I don't know how many of those outfits there are.
Yeah, I don't know either,
This
because
one's
if,
like Warmsworth, that was it?
Yeah, he's. up
That's
there
why I
in
think
age.
there's, feel like gotta be more.
well, I'm sure there are, but how close they are to us, because then there becomes the expense of transporting it.
Oh, that way.
So, oh yeah, someone in Illinois would like it, but, you know, what's it gonna cost to, because it has to be in an environment that's protected, temperature-wise and that kind of stuff.
I'll reach out to them, get some more information, and see.
you said the music teachers really don't have an interest in keeping it or using it in a current thing. Because I think it would be important to get their
Yeah.
100% feedback on what they would like to see.
I think they're, as a music teacher, it's yes, like, let's get it fixed. Not many districts have this, but then when you put the money to it and the time they'll use it, there was a little confliction of, I'm not sure it's worth that, to do that. But,
And if we didn't have the baby grand, I I'd be looking at it differently. I mean, uprights are uprights, they're nothing to, yay about. Baby grand is a step up, step down from the grand, obviously. That's why I was asking if they were satisfied with the baby grand. And how old is the baby grand, I'm sorry?
90 as well. Purchased a baby grand at the same time as the grand
Was that
piano.
brand new at that time, or?
That we couldn't, that we don't know.
That one is newer piano, I don't know if you're on it, but it is newer.
I'm guessing their vibe was a special. You probably would know.
What's that?
Call Oscar.
You probably would know.
I think he's,
I was thinking it was Weaver.
either that or
What
Hartman.
about Hartman? I was thinking it was Hartman.
That's what I was thinking, he's down.
Was he up here at that point?
Hartman, and what was the Repper?
Well, Hartman
Yeah,
was
Hartman
here
was secondary,
in
yeah.
90.
Probably Repper or
I was trying to think when Trevor replaced Weaver.
Remember, this year.
I don't remember a Weaver, so.
Weaver was back in the 80s, because he was 90, he was still here, from what I remember.
The only ones I know were Repper and Hartman, so that's,
Because I know
that's the 90s era.
Weaver was here in 84, back when.
Yeah, I think he was high school and Remember was all, because I
Oh,
had Remember in
really?
elementary. That would have been, I'm not even gonna say.
All right, so I'll get some information over the next month, and I'll bring it back to the board. All right, thanks.
Are there any citizens or students wishing to address the board this evening? Sure. Something for the end? Okay. All right, going to move right on to buildings and grounds and technology. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sharp.
So we have AEM with us tonight to talk about potential projects coming up. One of them is the HVAC. We went over this in buildings and grounds, and the next thing was to bring it to the whole board. So the first part is the HVAC replacement at Pembroke Elementary. There's currently a state grant out that we can apply.
Everything.
That we can apply for to help cover the cost of that. In your packets is the proposals.
So it's the AEM that is the white copy. You have a pink, a yellow, and a white one. So the grant that Matt is referencing, it's a $5 million grant that is offered through the Department of DCED.
Yes.
DCED. It is a matching grant. It's 25% that we would have to put forward. So you'll see the scope of what AEM put together, kind of worst case scenario, if you will. They toured the building with Matt, looked through, we're looking at boilers, HVAC. As far as, we did some work on the chiller on the roof before with phase 1. No. 3. Phase 1 is working, phase 2 is not, correct? Or it's on its...
It's on its way out.
So there was some discussion about, if we have the opportunity to get this grant, let's do that. This proposal would change all of our boilers over to propane. In turn, does the emergency generator go to propane too?
That's the plan.
Our emergency generator is inside the building. We would be looking at putting it outside the building in this proposal, right? And moving that over from diesel to propane. And it would require then that we remove the huge tank that's out there. There are a couple of mini splits that would also be needed to be upgraded there. So really, it's an overhaul of the HVAC. At the Building and Grounds meeting, there was some discussion of, if we have the opportunity to go through and get the grant, great. But if we don't get the grant, then maybe there would be some scaling back. Boilers were I think the boilers, the general consensus was support. There was some question on the HVAC depending on where our phases were. You can see the estimated cost for construction is $2.8 million. The total project would be 3.2 for that.
Dr. Nesbitt, I forget, is the grant 100% coverage or is it a cost share?
It's 75% covered, so we would have to come up with 25% of the cost.
Life expectancy of a propane boiler versus
I think they're about the same as your other fossil fuels, so they give or take 20 years. They seem to be getting more efficient in their usage, but you're still looking, maybe you're rebuilding it in 20 years, but 20 years you're probably looking at some type of either replacing it or a rebuild.
You're next.
So our portion of that project would then be about $800,000, what we would owe.
Is the grant a sure thing, or?
It is not. It's not given up.
When will you know?
What?
Is that the political grant that gets handed down by the local
No.
PCED?
No, it's a competitive one that you have to,
That's a ranking grant.
yeah.
Okay. So we need to do all the engineering to apply for the grant?
So we have, Phil and his team provided us the information, so we can submit the grant and apply for it, and then be able to know what we'd be able to do. So we have the general consensus, the breakdown of costs and all that, of what the scope of the work. Tom has already logged in and pulled up and started some of the pieces of the grant. But before we go ahead and move forward, we wanted to be able to bring it to the full board to say, if we get this, it's a great opportunity, but there is a share of about $800,000 that we would have. Based on, I think, if we get the grant and that is our share, I think the scope of work that we would get from $800,000 would be a pretty good, bang for your buck.
Where did this fit in the 5-year plan?
We had this for looking at potentially this summer, so it was from this summer, just for the plans.
Sitting in on that E&G meeting, it was pretty evident that we are on borrowed time in our system, that something is going to have to be done. And if one of the other stages go down, the system is pretty well rendered useless. Am I saying that accurately?
You'll still get some cooling, it just won't keep it cool.
How old is that system?
2000. And then one stage.
Now, one of the things, Phil, at our meeting was, and I don't remember if we talked to you about this, was the idea of taking the chiller off the roof and putting it on the ground.
We could look at that
Yeah.
as an option. We would want to decide that early, but that's potential. The concern we would have is your noise is all elevated. If I put that on the ground, am I going to create some sound issues for parts of the building that didn't exist previously? Depends on the type of chiller you go with, and obviously the location. There is acoustical treatment and packages you could put with that, but that's something we would review with you and say, what do you want to do, make that decision and plan accordingly. We're going to have to kind of reconfigure how things are where the above-ground storage tank is removed. We're going to probably need multiple propane tanks in there, so we'd be using some of that space. And then the generator's already moving outside. So that creates some footprint area inside the boiler room for new equipment. So it's all part of the design, and we would want to settle conceptually before we drive into a full design. And even with this, if you get a partial commitment on the grant, my understanding is with the DCED grant, I think I heard September's the time frame for them to make their selections of who gets what. A number of schools are pursuing this, so that was part of the problem in responding is not us so much, but the consolidated putting the number together. There are different districts that have been pressing them to all go after the same grant, so it's hard to say. But, to your point, if you get the money or even a good chunk of it, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. So make the biggest grab for what your needs are at the building at the start.
So I think with this one, it's just kind of the green light for us to move forward, start the process of applying for the grant. And then, once we know where that grant stands, then we can then bring it back to you for full consideration.
If the grant doesn't go through, what does it look like cost-wise to just replace existing systems, stay with the fuel oil?
I think that was the base project, was to get away from the fuel oil to go to propane with the new boilers are, they're taking care of your domestic hot water because your domestic hot water heater is down right now, so you're using your heating hot water boilers to heat your domestic through a temporary. So if you're going to replace them, that's the time to make the decision on the fuel, and propane natural gas has gotten to be the fuel of choice for most of these systems.
And I think when we were looking at the high school, whether to do oil or propane, my understanding is like propane is 95% plus efficiency, where oil was like 80% efficient.
And price-wise, propane and natural gas have been tracking more closely together, where the fuel oil has just been subject to so much political pressure and inflationary pressures. A lot of people are just moving away from that, getting away from the dual fuel situations and going to a single fuel source.
And I think our original plan, like when we were taking the 5-year plan, boilers were definitely on that, hot water heater, looking at that. With starting to look at the chiller and where we could go with that. So I think if we don't get it, we may need to break it down to, maybe it's a series of improvements that we make. Definitely the boilers and the hot water heater is something we would need to do. The mini split up in the data room, is that the one up in the attic? So, push came to shove right now, it's not a huge thing. And I think the fact that when the grant came out, it was, well, let's try to go after it if we have it available to us. So the scope kind of.
And there's also a controls upgrade in this number. So you'd have the opportunity, if you wanted to, under this, at least by alternate, look at a switch away from Johnson to somebody else to give yourself a little bit more flexibility so you're not subjected to their PM contracts and so forth. So when you get to the point of saying, this is what we need to do, if you're not sure about components, you can always do a base bid and alternate some of the items and then make a decision on bid day as costs come in, irrespective of what the grant brings you. So there's flexibility in how we can arrange this. So.
That's a good, so at the high school, what we tried to do is, as we were building systems, move away from anything proprietary and more like open source, that we would be able to control what that is. Right now, we spend about $60,000 a year on Johnson Control, for them to be able to manage our heating systems, cooling systems. There's not a whole lot of things we can get access to. Something needs to get done, they've got to make those tweaks. What we'd like to do is move away from that so that we have ultimate control over that stuff. And I think when Matt priced that out earlier this year, PB was a little over 300,000, I think.
380,000.
So that would be in there as well, and it would then replace then that annual $60,000 contract that we have with Johnson.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you figure, over the life of the boilers at $60,000, right there's $1.2 million that we've spent.
That, and they want us to do an upgrade to our system, which was $210,000.
Yeah.
Just for hardware.
Yeah, because they were pretty much saying they would be able to continue managing.
That's an all rebuild. That's just a
That is,
first one.
it won't be at the high school, so it'll be at the other 3 buildings.
So you'll have control of the high school in the future, and we won't be paying a yearly fee for
Right. Yeah, we'll be able to do
anybody
everything.
that manages it.
we'll be able to program everything we want.
Does the 3.2 million include the architect fee?
That's the soft cost permits, design fees, financing. 20 is probably a larger number if looking at if you had to go get a bond. So it might actually be better than that, but again, if you get most of the financing through the state, that number as a soft cost would come down proportionally.
So are we good with moving forward on that one? The next one is the next one is the Trojan Stadium, or the Stadium Sports Complex. That turf field is up for replacement. That track needs to be resurfaced. We're approaching the 14th, this is the 14th year of having that turf installed. We have that money set aside to replace the turf and to have that resurfaced. That sits in a committed fund balance. We are looking at, we would tentatively like to have it replaced for the summer of 2025. This summer is not feasible, but we believe we could get one more year out of it. It'd be 15 years then, and then we would look to replace it in 2025.
What were we told when it was put in? How long ago?
8 to 12 years.
Oh, wow.
About 10 years.
So our coach is pretty sure we can get one more year out of it, so.
I think as far as just like semantics, I don't know that we could get it replaced that quick. Like, till
Okay,
everything gets
yeah.
wrapped up, to
Yeah.
get it replaced this year. And I think we kind of delayed it a little bit just because of the construction at the high school, and they will be using that parking lot for some paving this summer and area, so we wanted to not add another level of congestion there.
Waiting a year to replace it. Reading's replacing a similar type field with the same type of fiber that's 20 years old. It's starting to deal with fiber loss at 15 years old, but you're still a safe playing surface. That's the most important thing, but you want to wait, you don't want to wait to the point that the fiber loss is so bad that you're basically playing on the infill. The fiber that you selected when we put that field in was a slit film, which is just a workhorse fiber at that error. So it's not surprising that you can get another year out of that.
So that one we have not worked a proposal yet, or you're working on that one, right?
Well,
Is that-
we wanted to find out because there was a discussion of alternates of what that project might be, because if I can't make that a base bidder, I'm not going to invite civil contractors to have an interest in bidding it. Because if that's all we're going to do, we'd probably talk to you about putting documents together and simply going out from CoStars to let you select the manufacturer and systems that you want for your track resurfacing and for your field replacement, rather than putting it out and dealing with a low bid there. It's a little bit more expensive that way, but you've got control then using the state contract, and you still can put it out for a competitive quote. All the state contract with CoStars does is give them the ceiling that they can go up to. So once I pick several turf manufacturers or track surfacing systems, you can sharpen their pencil and get their numbers down and pretty much mimic a traditional bid approach to it.
Just to reiterate those that weren't at that B&G meeting, there was some discussion of trying to see what the second turf field, the small turf field behind the high school, that would be used for gym classes and also athletic overflow, of what that could come in at, to potentially group it together, see if there was any cost savings. It appeared on bid day in the traditional project, there wasn't a whole lot of cost savings that didn't make sense. But, at the B&G meeting, there was some discussion of the maintenance on the field, how long it will take to establish field turf or a suitable grass base. I think you had done discussions at the
Minimum
initial
a year.
Yeah. So what would that look like to do, you know, a turf field there, a smaller turf field? What was the size of that, do you remember?
320 by 240, if I remember, 310 by 240. It would be the middle of, so that's letter C. B and C is kind of tied together or could be pulled apart. The proposal, one of the alternates was in the project was a potential second turf field, tennis courts. If we were to put a second turf field in the back, it would give us a middle of the road size field for soccer, field hockey. It's not our current turf field is the largest soccer field that we can do by PIAA standards. A second turf field could fit, but it'd be like a mid-size. So if you remember when we were putting money aside to do the current turf field and the track, we also knew that tennis courts needed to be addressed. They're sinking, cracking, and there's issues with that. So we put about $500,000 into the committed fund balance to deal with tennis courts. And so there's been some discussion, you know, on and off of should we do a second turf field, should we not? And I think we just want to be able to have some direction that when we do the first turf field, it could be to our advantage to do a second turf field if there was interest. If not, you know, and there's, you know, we just want to do the turf field resurfacing and we want to do tennis courts. The plan originally was to move the tennis courts closer to the building from what they currently are. You know, that's an option. But in the B&G meeting, the discussion was let's bring it to the full board and let's either say, yes, let's move forward those options, or no, you know, we're not interested in a second turf field or even moving the tennis courts. Let's repair the ones we have. To repair the existing tennis courts, it was a little over $90,000. And so I think when we were talking that, it was, well, maybe it makes sense financially to abandon them and move into, you know, redoing the tennis courts, bringing them closer to the building, not losing that instructional time in the phys ed room where they're taking them halfway across the property, get the tennis courts closer to the school. So,
It's $103,000.
$103,000.
Would there be a deduct change order if they didn't have to put topsoil and plant grass in the existing, right now that's part of the project, I would assume. Right now it's all construction equipment and trailers down there, but, so I would assume if you put something out, there should be a credit that since they don't have to do that.
We did discuss that at the meeting there, and I'll let you elaborate on that.
If we had a project going to what you had spoken about, you could address that piece and say, give us a credit not to restore that, only to have it, you know, grass, whatever's supposed to go there, torn off. Give us a credit just to turn it over, rough grade it, stabilize it, keep your NPDES permit open that you have on the project, and then you can design that area, whatever that includes. We talked potentially a parking lot that was adjacent to it, I think, the field and the tennis courts. There was some suggestion of, do we look at lighting at the same time? At minimum, we would say put the conduits and pull boxes in so that we don't have to dig up later on if you're going to put any type of lighting on the tennis courts and or field. But you should be able to go to that project and say, what's the credit to take that work out of the project, and just give me dirt that's stabilized to the satisfaction of the conservation district. And then whenever they're out of that area, you should have the right under your current contract to what we refer to as work under separate contracts. Even if they're not out of the high school next summer, I think they would be out of that area of the project site, is what we had discussed. You should be able to come in there and work with a plan to get your own contractor in there to start addressing that area. And putting in whatever those improvements are. So there is a mechanism that should be available in the current contract at the high school to back that piece out and handle it as a second project. We just need to use the same NPDS permit. You're the permittee. You sign your contractor on as a co-permittee, so you hold that permit. It doesn't belong to that project.
Ideally, if we did this, hopefully the current excavator would be the successful bidder, just continue.
Very possible. I mean, if they're on site, they should have the advantage of not needing to totally remobilize. And of course, you've got an excavator right up the road, which is already pre-mobilized, so you should get some decent competition there.
So where all the storage containers are now, the trailers, all that, that would be where the part of the field would be, that's being restored. The majority of that field is currently still grass though, right?
Yeah.
So you would probably get that portion of regrading it. But the majority of the field, I think, is still untouched grass.
But I think that all gets regraded too.
Even all the grass.
Actually, I think it has to go lower.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because it's the current height.
They gotta
Yeah, the current
cut
height.
a fair amount out of there.
Do they need that fill for some area on the project? Is that why it was being cut down?
It's just the, or I don't want to speak out of term, I think it's just the logistics of what needed to get done to keep things on a time frame that didn't get done as far as needing to fill.
Yeah, we don't need the fill, because we have
Okay.
more fill than they.
Because if all of a sudden they were banking on that and they gotta
Yeah.
start trucking it in, you'll be paying an ad change order.
We have a lot of fill.
Yeah, but they pretty much filled behind that.
You've been
baseball
hauling it
field,
out.
that whole field was filled in.
Let's roll right into the next one and then have a discussion on.
We talked about that. The next one then would be the other thing we acquired AM was bus parking lot and fuel tanks for the district office here.
That's the pink one, the pink proposal that you have.
So, that, sorry, lost the numbers. Preliminary construction estimate for that was 600 to 750,000, and that was to do fuel tanks and pave the lot, and that was also with fencing, correct?
Fencing, paving, fuel station,
And some
and at minimum conduit for site lighting. We would suggest take an alternate for lighting the site right away for security purposes, but if the money's not there, at least put the conduit in for future site lighting at the time that it might fit your budget. I think the only thing that might not be in here, I'd have to look back at my number, you had talked about the possibility of a second fuel station.
Right.
So I forget if that was in here or you've mentioned that, so, yeah.
So it does say that
Yeah, we
including
did.
fuel tanks.
Okay, then you picked it up and I revised it.
So I think when we looked at, to give perspective, we looked at doing an independent, a diesel tank, 8,000 gallon tank was about 150,000 to have it installed. So I'm guessing 2 tanks is about 300,000.
Would we need an 8,000? I guess we would, because you want 5,000 trail. Because we'd want to purchase that fuel ourselves, correct?
Yeah.
Why can't we repurpose our Ben Burnville tank we're taking out?
I'd have to ask, it was an oil storage tank, I don't know what that would involve. I don't think it's 8,000 gallons though.
That was, it's 12,000.
Is it 12? Okay. I imagine they could clean it and repurpose it. I don't know how easy it is to move.
Yeah, in today's world, heating oil and diesel are pretty much mimic each other, other than a lubricant additive. I mean, it should be able to haul it, drop it, fill it on it.
And maybe that's an alternate. And then you have an as-bid cost on what it is to get a brand new tank or to relocate and repurpose that one. I'm sure DEP would have to get some type of recertification and, not DEP,
It probably would be.
maybe DEP,
It
yeah.
probably would be DEP.
Because fuel gas code, I think they enforce that, so.
Either has to be built to their compliance or inspected.
It is a double wall tank with a containment system, the alarms and all that stuff would probably need to be replaced for the containment, but it's a double wall with a dike on it, so.
What's that?
It should be able to be used.
On the paving portion, when I came in here this morning, in the last minute before the start of the meeting, kind of looked like my house, where the stones driving all sorts of stuff out in the driveway, and there's the remnants of wet stone dust or whatever it is driving all the way out to the parking lot. I know we're back and forth on the paving, but it would be nice not to have stuff drug out onto the road and out across the front of the building.
And it also makes snow removal a lot easier for the 2 or 3 times we do get snow. I don't know if that pile of stone down there is put there purposely, or if it was being pushed from the snow removal.
That was pushed, and then it was also from cleaning up the grass.
When there was extra.
No, it wasn't the pile.
The pile is in
No,
the
the pile was in the corner, that pile is from snow pile.
There was a pile in the corner.
We spread it around.
Oh. So it looks like all number 3s, and that's what the pile was.
Is that pile wasn't there initially when the lot was done?
I think your pile was in the corner towards the road originally, right?
Oh, yeah, a little more grass that way.
Yeah.
Now there's one
Right,
in the
center.
center.
Fortunately, with Dennis on staff, I've been using his abilities to fix the stone up and use the tractor to fix everything up, so it's been going pretty well. But I will say plowing, we have every building done before he finishes up here on the bus lot. It is taking a substantial amount of time to clean the bus lot off and do the stone.
I don't think it's the stone, I think it's moving.
It's also the buses.
Yeah, I was gonna
yes.
say, it's not stone, it's stone that,
But
it's
it's,
a headache after you plow.
correct,
Stone's
well,
not
that's part of it,
taking
he starts cleaning it up right away too.
So my next question would be for Tom, where does this fit in the budget? Is there money allotted for it? Or can we afford it, might be the other question.
I did. So be prepared, Tom.
It's usually my question, you know?
Are we gonna sell subs and shoot the party?
The fuel tanks will pay for themselves.
We're selling a grand piano.
Refurbishing it first. and then-
Yeah, exactly, it's fixed it first.
So it really all depends on the final project. In my opinion, it depends on the final high school project. With the contingency monies that are available and things like that, how much is it going to be delays in high school projects? We have $12 million capital reserve right now. We're using some of that money to pay for the balance of the project. So we'll still have money left. So, and we're funding the capital reserve with $500,000 a year, plus any excess funds from budgets. For example, this year, we'll have excess funds because of our interest earnings. We'll have $1 million in interest earnings on a budget of $200,000. So that type of money will be available for construction projects like that. But it really still depends on the high school project or where it flushes out at the end. You know, there's contingency money there. Hopefully we will use it, but if we use all of it, we'll worry about it.
So
But-
yeah.
But there's money available in the capital reserve for the planned projects we have.
So there's, so far to date, how much have we spent, do you know, out of capital reserves for the project?
Out of capital reserves, it
Yeah.
was like $5.5 million.
So we have,
Out of the 12, we spent 5.5 already.
Out of the, this is over the last 3 years. On the high school project, we've spent $5.5 million out of capital reserves, not out of the bond money. So we're going to pay the soft costs out of the capital reserve. So that's where we've been paying it. And then once we got the bond money, we started paying everything out of the bond, which was in October. We stopped using the capital reserve for the high school.
Is there like a update on the project, like where we're at financially? For what they've completed so far, or we only
2 months schedule-wise.
31,000 change orders. Well,
Better knock on wood.
that is 20.
Yeah.
We've
One
expended,
wall opening away from a disaster.
Uh-huh,
Yeah, we didn't even get into the fun stuff yet.
yeah. Wait
Into
till
the
they,
true remodel.
wait till
This is all
they,
new
wait till they tear
construction.
the high school apart.
Yep, no, I agree.
we're basically a quarter of the way through our, the trades, the contractor's contracts. We're a quarter of the way through it. Each one has a little different amount, but basically 25% has been expended and 75% is left. Okay.
So the contingency for the high school project is a little over 900,000. And the soft cost budget, based off of where furniture comes in, technology, cameras, all that, that will come in under a budget as well. We have, based off of where we financed a $60 million bond, 2.1 million coming from ESSERS for HVAC. We looked at pulling 12.1 out of capital reserves for cash on hand. So at 5.5, we need to pull about 6.6 yet out of capital reserve. So that actually, based off of where we projected we would be, we're actually ahead of where we are in capital reserves. We projected, if you remember a little bit ago, that we would be a little under $4 million in our scenario with capital reserves once we paid out the $7 million. So we are ahead of it. We know that there is interest that we've talked about putting back into capital reserves with interest as we earn interest from the bond. So I do think, as far as affordability, I mean, if we had to fund the parking lot, another turf field, and the HVAC, that would cut us tight. I think if we get the grant for $5 million, that essentially takes a huge chunk of that HVAC away, and then it's, you know, then we really need $2 million.
You'll get the grant for a portion of the HVAC. You won't get a grant for $5 million.
Right.
You'll get a grant.
Yeah, so you would get it.
2.8, 5% of the cost. Were the ESSER funds received?
No, not yet. I submitted for them, I'm checking.
Is that guaranteed?
Check his bank account,
Is
but
that
not here
guaranteed?
yet.
Is that guaranteed?
By law, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
it was approved.
I mean, all the other ESSERs we've received.
Right.
It's just this one.
Just curious. And
Yeah, I submitted that in,
What's on your major projects in the next 12 months? You look at sidewalks,
Yeah, sidewalks, flooring, Farmville, and then bus stop is one of them, and boilers at Farmville.
so the bus lot is on your,
It was on the plan, I underestimated a lot, but
Yeah, we never showed that.
So we didn't underestimate nothing with the project. Just to be clear, we sat in this room about 18 months ago and decided to take on that project because we weren't willing to spend that kind of money. And I was gonna try and keep quiet about this, and I can't, my blood pressure's up. You know, there used to be a gentleman that sat right over here in this corner. That'd be like, we got the money, now and they're gonna spend it, and that's how I feel tonight. Last week, I called another board member, and I was really venting about this, and I'm all for the fuel tanks. I think they will pay for themselves. Spending another $350,000, $400,000 to blacktop and put a couple lights up. If we're worried about the dirt marks coming out, call our local paver, say we're gonna be willing to spend $20,000. How far can we pave in here to make it better to walk in? And the main turnaround portion, get what we can of it, that the buses back off into the dirt. They don't need a fence. We're not having security problems now. Matt has the best technology that picks up a person climbing a fence, identifies them, and calls all of you guys at 2 o'clock in the morning. We don't need a fence. You drive by here at night, you guys put lights up, it's lit up, you can see. For that kind of money, we figured it out. You could put 2 inches of 2A modified on there for the next 77 years. 77 years, do that math, of what that will be, 77 years. We probably won't even have freaking buses in 77 years. We're gonna have Flintstone mobiles that go around picking up the kids. You know, a turf field, the kids are gonna get benefits from that. Our gym classes, the outdoor ability, to be able to get out there in, you know, the nice March day where all the other fields are too wet, the gym classes can go out. We have 2 turf fields that they can play on. It doesn't make total sense to me, but it makes sense. Like I can, in my mind says, hey, that's worth exploring and see if we can do. Spending $300,000 to put lights around a lot and a fence and some trees for something that 18 months ago we sat here and we couldn't afford to do. So 2 schmucks of board members decided, hey, we're going to do this on our own to save the district money. Frankly, when I saw the proposal, it really stung. It hurt, personally. My rant, so that's on that.
Well, I'd like to see just a price on paving. The heck with like Government College, no fence, no lights, no conduit, whatever, just a price to pave it. Because we talked about this before, I brought up about let's get a price on paving it for snow removal, and then Mr. Byler's point about dragging stone out, whatever. But I think we should just get a price on paving it. If we can do it through Western Trucking or Windsor or whoever. Get a couple quotes. I don't know how that goes with co-stars and we're a school district or whatever, but I think you could pave it, and my guess is for $50,000 or less. My opinion. I'm not pulling that number out of
Do
here.
you have a broke down inventory map of like the prices, like what paving was alone?
No, we didn't get that, I don't think you had that.
I don't have it broken out, but you're gonna pay probably somewhere around $65 a square yard for heavy-duty paving on that lot, and you will have to pave either with concrete, well, at least concrete at the fueling stations to comply with the fuel code. So there will be some pavement installed at minimum. If your stone's washing out, maybe you just get a price to, we can alternate the thing. You can look at it and decide what you want to pay for. Maybe you just do the apron and throat coming in at the main part of the drive so that the drive areas where maybe you're pulling most of your stone off and on the lot, maybe that's, you look at that, pave that if you don't want to pave the entire lot. There, again, with alternates, there are a way to do cost control. At minimum, though, we will probably be putting concrete with the tanks for each of the independent fuel stations. So there will be some of that that will be a hard service.
We saw a proposal, I think that actually, did it not? Yeah. Yeah, the concrete pad from Highland Tank.
So my next question is, can the school district do what the townships do and buy the blacktop ourselves and pay the labor to have somebody lay it? Because I know I was supervisor at Bethel Township and we bought all our paving, asphalt. We paid for that as a township. We got it for, I think, $300 a ton back then. And we paid a company to actually pave our alleys, but we paid for the materials ourselves.
I'm not sure if that's tied to the liquid fuels program and how that all works with the asphalt and a lot of the road work that gets done. School districts don't have access to liquid fuels necessarily. I don't know that they're all on co-stars or state contract. It's something we could investigate. I haven't seen that done with public schools.
Yes, you know, if that was a possibility, we buy the asphalt ourselves and pay somebody to lay it.
Part of the challenge is once you declare the project, and Attorney Boland will tell you, once we're over $25,000, we're into the prevailing wage, and they look at that as a total project. So if somebody came in to lay the paving, you're still going to have to follow the prevailing wage rates, and you're going to have to bid that competitively as part of the project.
What if we do it in sections, like 5 sections, whatever's under 25,000, and then do it over the course of whatever the time frame is in between?
Outside of that, potentially you can do that. I think what's the threshold now for the get 3 quotes? I think it's around $22,000. Yeah. So
Brian has always told us that it doesn't long matter it's the scope of the project, not the length of the project.
And maybe the scope of the project is, the first round is obviously fuel tanks. That makes total sense. We're gonna pay them back in probably 2 years in the fuel savings. But maybe the first step of the project is, hey, whatever the local paving company can pave the most for $20,000, that's the most of the project that's getting done until it gets reevaluated.
What about putting millings down and having it rolled?
I don't think it's the tightness, that parking lot is tight. There's no potholes, you know.
What you want to be careful is you don't want to build your base up so much that you come in, excavate, and all the materials, you pound it down into the surface when it comes time to pave an area, and then you're paying to haul that stuff out of there, because you just keep driving that down into the surface. To a modified, once it tightens up, it's okay. Until it tightens up, it can be like soup if you put it down and you get a lot of rain afterwards, and then you're back in recompacting it. I would, if you just want to deal with the fuel tanks, deal with the fuel tanks, and then decide what you want to do with the surface later on. If you try to do it all at the same time, to point of Brian Boland, it's all part of the same project. I think you almost got, if the fuel tanks are the project, do the fuel tanks, you got to get the power to them. The way I look at it, you got an excavator out there, you got a site civil guy. Does it hurt to take a look at what that cost would be as part of the total project? If I'm, you get a couple people that want to sharpen their pencils. We put an inflationary control thing with the asphalt index that if it goes up or down by 5%, we're not paying a change order. If it moves above or below that, you're either doing a credit or an add, because that's something that's driven by the market and the price of fuel. I can bid it in January and the price of asphalt can go up $200 a ton of liquid asphalt. And so that's the one thing that makes it difficult when you bid these things 6 months out and then they're putting the asphalt down 6 months later. You just don't know what the liquid asphalt cost is going to be.
Am I reading the proposal rate? Your fee to do that is $142,000?
I think it's just 71.
No, 71.
71.
It's just two different breakdowns there.
Gotcha.
And the construction phase services are proposed. If you end up with somebody that, a Landistech or somebody that you've got faith in, and you say, hey, you guys are done at bidding, we're good with them from here, that's fine. That's an hourly as requested by the district, so.
Said we do the whole thing hourly.
Yeah.
I think when we met and created the 5-year plan, I think Matt and I think based off of kind of what we were looking at pricing online, we were looking at what, like $125,000 to pave it.
Yeah, I think we're a little under that, but.
Yeah.
But if you look, just use your 150 for the tanks. If there's 2 tanks, $300,000 there. You got to get the power out of the building, out to the site. So you're extending the power. You probably got to drop another panel in the building because that's going to be a pretty healthy service. You're going to probably run out to a weatherproof enclosure to distribute the power on the site. Then you're looking at your pads to fuel on. They're probably going to be concrete. So it doesn't take long to suddenly, if you've got $125,000 in there, you're quickly to $500,000. Take the fence out, that's not really a big ticket item. Take the lighting out. My suggestion is if you're out there with an excavator, now's the time at least to put the conduits in. That's relatively small cost. If you ever think you're going to put site lighting, if you don't need it and you're convinced, then don't put the conduit in.
So the scope of the fuel tanks themselves are approximately $300,000 for the 2. But then we need a concrete pad big enough for the bus to sit on while it's filling.
Correct. For fuel containment, if there's a spill, so that it doesn't get down into the soil.
Yeah, I'd have to sit here and go through line item by line item. The quote is very lengthy. But Highland Tank had proposed basically turnkey. Now this was a little bit more of an elaborate system. It actually had a canopy over it with light packages, explosion-proof light pole. Basically, this was, as it was described to me, this was the Cadillac system, turnkey, ready for our power. Meaning we had to get power to it. The price was $150,708.11.
What size tank?
That's a 10,000 gallon
For 1 tank.
for 1 tank.
I'm still on the repurposing the burner tank, who has to pay for it.
We're going to be about 30,000 in the certifying and moving in.
That's what I mean.
Is that prevailing wage?
What's that quote?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot in school districts, I would assume they have that figured out. I mean, that's what Highland Tank does. This is a normal, they just did either Tuncanada or Tuscarora, it was a T name up north. I think I did share that with you. They just did their fuel tanks for their bus depot.
And we want to, because there's a big cost in savings, find out which fuel.
Yeah.
We're paying at the pump minus percentage discount. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know if two was necessary. Then buy one.
And you said with the buses, we get our
Gas
own.
and diesel. Gas and diesel. We do two
Oh,
separate
gotcha.
tanks.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing is, yes, we want tanks, maybe the scope of the paving is entrance in, to kind of keep the rocks out, see how far $20,000 puts us into that.
I don't know, I'd get a bid from our local contractors on the whole lot.
Yeah, what's the worst that happens? They come and tell you, hey, you're gonna be over bid threshold?
Right, exactly. But I'd like, bids from the local guys to see what they could do. That way at least we know that.
Any comments, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'd sooner spend something that the kids get used out of, such as the turf field, before spend money even on blacktopping at all. But definitely the fuel tank or something you're gonna gain a self-payback on.
I would agree, I think it's unnecessary to.
I mean, if we were fighting mud,
Yeah.
potholes, sinkholes, but I think, we're not patting ourselves back, I think we did a good enough job that we don't have a swampy, bushy parking area. I mean, I drove by in rain and hardly see a water puddle in the lot.
Or we think, get some prices, see where it lands.
I'd say, I mean, I know that everybody else's turf fields are gonna benefit the kids, and that's why we're here. I'd just like to see some other pricing on what that would cost, because I think this is way too much, honestly.
How much the gas tank, or the fuel tanks? I'm not even sure about a gas tank. How much gas do we use?
How many buses do we have?
2,400 gallons a month and almost 4,000 diesel.
I don't think you realize the savings in gas that you would from diesel. I mean, or maybe I'm wrong, but I usually find gas in a tank in the farm would cost you almost the same, unless it's a huge amount, but it costs you almost the same as you would at a pump. Or diesel, there's a huge savings on a tanker load and stuff.
Do the buses run off-road, red stuff, or do they have to get the regular?
School districts are exempt from fuel tax.
So you don't get filled that.
But, and I would be willing to look at repurposing that 12,000 gallon tank. You use 4,000 out of it, you can put another tanker in it right away, so you always have fuel there. But I think you would need two tanks of diesel. But I'd be for the tanks, and paving can wait for another project and see where we're at if we're serious about paving it, otherwise.
Is there at least the next bus contract too? I mean,
Yeah, that's the other, what happens when that busing company comes in, and they say, well, we need a garage. Are we gonna let build them a garage, or are they gonna move off-site?
And as far as the second turf field, I would like to see that bid as an alternate, not as a part of the project, because I'm not sure I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't hear too much talk then about tennis courts, other than what you told us for repair.
So, and that's where we need to, like I said, we did put money aside to either totally relocate them or repair them. It basically comes down to, there's just so much water in that area, that we need to either divert the water and create some kind of water system that takes the water away from that area.
Is there a room they're rebuilding somewhere else?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I think it's actually laid out.
Yeah, so basically,
It was designed for it.
Okay.
yeah.
Because I mean, the inconvenience of where they were, my kids played, it was not a big deal. You drove down.
It's more the gym class.
I think, yeah, it's only classes.
Okay.
The
Rusty, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I agree on the fuel tank part. I'm on board with getting numbers on the second turf field. I think there's benefit to that. A wash on the pavement. I think that's an astronomical number to pave that lot. I would agree that it could probably wait till after the project, to see where all that stays.
Chris? Pretty much in the same place. I wouldn't mind hearing how far $20,000 gets us on blacktop.
So what we can do is we can get local quotes, just to see, I mean, maybe at the end of the day, we'll get a local person that says, hey, legitimately it's $300,000. Maybe we find out it's 50 and we can maybe somehow retool and figure that out. But, we get some local quotes that we can also see, give us a quote on what $20,000 gets us under the bid threshold, give us a quote on the whole part. And maybe, maybe Matt, maybe one of the things we might be able to do is pave the inside, like the entrance, and then maybe straight down the center. That at least that's the part you're pushing and plowing is just paved. And then where the buses park remains stone.
They can make it close, I really do.
Yeah.
And especially all the warehouses where their trucks turn into their facilities, it's always concrete. It must be really thick concrete.
It is.
Asphalt not hold up.
No.
Because it's churning on the heat.
When it gets hot out, that asphalt pushes like
Rubber, yeah, just like Joe.
And that would be my only caution with paving down the middle, is you're gonna have a bus that turns and pivots, and then you're backing off of blacktop onto stone, it'll start to crumble. So I don't think you'll get the life out of that you're probably looking for.
The one BCIU lot, they did have paving down, and they did struggle with the edges kind of creeping off.
It's gonna,
But I mean, it worked for 10+ years. Jen, where are you at on things?
I mean, I think the tanks are a good idea, as you guys were saying that you're gonna get your money back. It doesn't hurt to get quotes from somebody else, but doing something that could benefit the kids a little bit more. Some of the tennis sports are doing second turf field, it's probably a little bit more beneficial.
Did we move away from putting the fuel tanks out back? That was a conversation a while back also.
Yeah, I thought they were going out back here, is what I thought.
There was one of the discussions about putting them back, straight back here that they drive through.
I don't know, I guess our buses drive through there.
They'd have to, it'd be really tough. It'd be really tough.
Probably the most convenient place would be where the vans are. Put the tanks right there.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you gotta think about your fuel coming in too.
Yeah, the one company refuses to under our heating tank.
All right, so we will, on the, just to kind of recap here, on the HVAC side, we will begin the process of applying for that grant. On the stadium turf, begin the process of replacing the turf, resurfacing the track, and then turf field and tennis courts as alternates. And that will give us some options, lighting as well, to see what we could do.
I would agree, if we're doing anything out back there, outside of the bid that is currently there, getting conduit and everything else is a no-brainer.
Yeah. It's dug open as that already is.
Yeah.
You mean like around where
Even burying the bases and running the conduit to them, because then you're not excavating anything in the future, you're just setting a hole and somebody's pulling wire.
You need water down there for anything, like run a water line with a hydrant?
Is the water going down there? No. There's not. So that probably should be, if we're doing that.
There is power, power is going out to the softball field in the project to get the scoreboard there powered. And then we just figured at some point we could then potentially feed off that to feed ourselves to the baseball one. But we simply going, we don't do power at this point, putting it, prepping it, and getting it. And then as far as the bus parking lot, what we'll do is we'll get some local quotes for paving, different sides, full parking lot, just the entrance, and then we'll look at pursuing tanks. Are we looking at that outside of the scope of AEM? Was Highlands co-stars?
So they were not co-stars, but they were affiliated with someone else, or something
Oh, they were
else.
part of Keystone, I think. I think it was Keystone.
I don't remember, it was some purchasing group they took part of.
Or do we want to work with AEM on those tanks and just tighten that scope of that project up, paving out, tanks in?
I would say, welcome back AEM, by the way.
Thank you. Good to be back.
I think we're glad to have you. I would say for the purpose of the bus lot, I think we explore more with Highland Tank before we do anything else. Not to, we're glad to have you guys back, we're glad to have you on these other projects, but see if we can save money that way first, is my opinion.
And now that we know that's the direction we're going, we could actively more so engage and just say, hey, give us some ballpark pricing so we know. And if it looks like it's too much, I'm sure you're.
If you're going through a cooperative purchase, ask them to expose all their fees and what the cost of the cooperative purchase is, because there are hidden fees, and I'd be surprised if they'll break it all down for you, but cooperative purchase is more expensive than co-stars.
Just for numbers' sake, Phil, for all of us sitting here, if we were to say, hey, we just want to engage you for the fuel tanks, where do you think your fees would be?
Well, we'll work out hourly. I don't, I have to go back to consolidate, but it's going to be substantially lower than that, because they need to design the power to get out there. That's the trickiest part, in all honesty.
Getting the power to the.
Well, power and then compliance with the fuel gas codes. That's the difficult. It's concrete and excavation, and the nice thing is Highland Tank can certainly bid. We put them in our specs all the time, along with all the other manufacturers, but the site civil guy's going to go out and hire a Hafer or BF Petroleum or somebody like that to do the fuel work anyway. So they may just buy the tank from over here, get Hafer to do the fuel work. They're going to do the excavation and concrete. Frankly, I think design bid builds the best bang for your buck still. It typically beats co-stars and handily beats your cooperative purchasing every time we run against them.
Can we reach out to Hafers or one of the ones you mentioned for getting an estimate on inspecting and certifying the Burnville tank? Or who would you reach for that?
The trick with that is we can't yank that tank out of there until we decide what we're doing with the boilers, because that's your fuel source until the boilers are pulled out.
Yeah.
So it almost, the Burnville project becomes a tail wagging the dog on this thing. But I'll talk to Consolidated to see what they can find out about that. I don't, personally, it makes common sense to me that I just repurpose that as a diesel fuel tank versus a fuel oil tank. I'm guessing there's some certification that needs to take place. Then it's cost of crane to pick it off down there, rig it, get it up here, crane to pick it off and set it in place here. But if the tank costs me, I think I was seeing prices $85,000 to $125,000 kind of in the estimating guides. I got to be able to do that a whole lot cheaper, and there's still got to be life left in that solid steel tank down there.
Especially if it's double wall.
Just say you give the 5 of them on this board an afternoon together, we'll have the tank up here and set.
I'm sure you've got the equipment.
So my other question for you is, what type of boilers are in Burnville right now?
They are two boilers, I think.
Are they Cleaver-Brooks? Because my question
They
is,
might be.
Del Val Equipment often converts oil-fired boilers to propane, changes the guns and the controls, So if the boilers that are there are in decent shape, is there a problem with getting a price on just converting the guns and the controls to propane and using the existing boilers?
I'd have to ask Consolidated. My guess is they're going to tell you the higher efficiency condensing boilers that are available today are going to pay for themselves over time to try to build a 20-year-old boiler.
Are they steam boilers down there now, or are they hot water?
Hot water tube boilers.
They're hot water too.
Yeah. It's not steam.
Just depends if we get the grant money, Carl.
It does, but I'm just saying the new electronic controls really bump up the efficiency on those Cleaver boilers. Because they're completely automated, modulating controllers. They ramp up and down depending on load. There's a lot they can do with those.
With the VFDs and everything, we're looking at pumps and everything with complete reconfiguration there. Again, I'm an architect. Mechanical's not my thing. I know enough to be dangerous, but I'd have to lean back and Consolidated. But that's something we'll look at as we discuss conceptually, what do we want to do going forward. Talk about what the options are, make decisions early on before we plow forward and just say, this is what we're doing.
Gotcha.
Where's the well on this property?
This property?
I'm assuming somebody looked at that before they started talking about where they're gonna put fuel tanks. Is there some sort of like?
The well, I think, is out back over here, because it comes back into the,
Wasn't that part of the reason we couldn't go on that side with the bus
That was
stop?
one of the reasons.
I didn't know. I thought when I attended school here so many years ago, there used to be a.
We're about
Yeah, I had
down
a
here.
nice black and blue mark right across here. And that about stopped me dead.
I kind of think there might be a capped well
I
down at
didn't know
that
if that
end
was
that
a-
didn't have much flow, and they put a newer well, drilled one in later back here. I could be
So
wrong.
as far as the tanks then, what it sounds like is we get the current tank inspected, figure out if that could be repurposed, and then the fuel tanks would be on hold until we know if that can be used, then it would just be a waiting game to see when we get that grant.
I think I'd investigate the gas and see if there'd be enough savings. I don't know if the gas will pay for a tank, I mean, over a couple of years.
And then the other part of the crane is, can we get one of our trucking companies with a big rotator to lift it, as opposed to getting an all-out crane?
I think it'd actually be the same price.
Think so?
So you can crank's pretty cheap.
Diesel, I'm sure
Is
will
it
pay
right?
for it. I'm not sure gas.
What's it weigh?
It's a 10,000 gallon tank, right?
I
12,000.
have a handful of cranes.
All right, the final thing there is just an update on the Kissling property. We're still trying to work through some perk tests. The issue that we're currently going through is the sewage enforcement officer is involved for Jefferson Township. Anytime that you do a perk test, you have to notify DEP that you're doing that perk test. And there's now a whole bunch of information that they're asking for. And they're requesting potentially an engineer on site while they're doing it to tell where exactly they need to dig. What I'm trying to navigate is, listen, we're not even at that stage yet. We just want to know, is it going to perk? So that we know that, yes, it's a green light. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to get that perk test going, but there's just some things navigating that way. One of the papers that you have before you is the yellow one. That is an engagement with AEM to start looking at that, start rough designing maybe what some of the ideas could be or would be for that building. When we met with Phil, we talked about kind of just a general idea of maybe an Ag STEM Academy building, maybe 100 kids on a typical basis that we build into our curriculum. Every grade level has to spend a certain amount of time down on that property, within the building, within the streams, building science components. There's been some discussion about other partnerships with some other schools to be able to have that, some programs that we might be able to do on the career and tech side, whether it be vet tech, there's biology tech, there's a lot of exciting things that we can do. But one of the things we would like to do is, as we pursue this project and move forward with it, we would like to be able to have a rough sketch or a rough idea so that when we're talking to people, there's something tangible. So as we're giving that vision, there's also, hey, here's what it kind of looks like, or here's what that vision rough sketch is. That's what your proposal is. So you can see that proposal calls for a fixed fee of $9,000 to work through that. A little bit of, I was just talking to Phil a little bit before the meeting about tapping into, is there a way that if they're asking for an engineer to tell them exactly where it is, could I meet with the engineer out there and they just say, listen, this would probably be the optimum spot. We already know, I already told them it's the high point, we already know where we want to put the building, like, you know, we know that already. But if there's certain requirements of the township, how do we navigate that as well? So this is more engagement to start that early process of some of that quick design.
We'd also take a look at the logistics of local land planning, land development, compliance for that property to be used for an educational need.
Probably should wait till the ground is engaged.
That's what I was gonna say, I'd be okay with this.
I'm fine with it, but
Once-
I think we should actually be in the purchase process.
So we'll just hold out until we have the property and then we'll move forward.
I'll still get Mike in touch with, he already texted him, we're gonna call tomorrow morning and see if he can get out ahead of this and help you out there.
Does anybody else think that with all the other projects going on and all the other talk of spending and building this new high school and all this, and maybe we should just abandon this Kissling property because we might be spreading ourselves too thin and spending too much money that we don't quite have yet without hard figures, and is there gonna be 50, 75, 150 million to put a building up, put a sewer plant in, do all your paving, do all your parking lot lights and all your updates? I mean, you could sink as much into this Kissling property as what you're spending on the high school project now, or more. I mean, I just don't understand, and maybe I'm nearsighted and don't see the big scope that everybody else does, but I just think this is, pardon my French, a lack of a waste of money. The total thing we shouldn't do, we should invest the money we have into the high school, the money we have paying down the debt we have. You know, put some money into some kids' programs, maybe some new uniforms, new books, new this, new that. You know, but here we want to go spend more money, more money, more money. You know, like Kyle said, all he hears is spending more money, and that just rubs me the wrong way. You know, we're going into debt with this high school project, and now we want to go into debt some more. I mean, I know you guys got this big vision of this big complex, but in this day and age, it takes big money to do that. So yeah, if you get a commitment from every school district in Berks County that we're gonna throw, I don't know, $10 million your way, you know, times all the districts, yeah, then maybe, but, I mean, I was a no from the beginning, I'm still a no, and I'll always be a no, because that money could be spent elsewhere. So, thank you.
I'll just add to that. I do see a little bit what you're talking about, Carl, and spending. Obviously, you heard me go on my tangent, but I do see educational benefit and the opportunity for the kids in this property. One is just the softball field alone. Mr. Leinbach, what did you say it will cost us to potentially light, if we did that second turf field?
Probably looking at about 400, $450,000 for 4 light poles to light up a regulation field. If you put the tennis courts on, you might add another couple $100,000 because they could probably use 2 of the standards to light back the one side of the tennis courts, and you probably need another 2 poles. So, baseball field typically needs about 5 to 6 poles.
So basically, what it would cost to light one field that we don't even have, we're buying a whole field of complex with lights.
Right, but that's $750,000 you would spend on the Kissing property to do the turf field, to do all the lighting that he just mentioned.
And I think you got one. Yeah, or half, yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to put it
Right.
in, I'm just trying to put it in perspective. Not trying to sell you, your mind's made, and that's why there's 9 of us.
That's why there's 9 of us,
That's
we
why there's
agree to
9.
disagree, absolutely.
Carl, if it makes you feel better, I'm kind of that buy and hold, if that makes sense, and let the dust settle with this other stuff before we go spending money.
And
You got it.
I mean, I'm still under the assumption that's the plan, like, the perk test was part of kind of some preliminary to make sure we're not buying something that's just a land paperweight,
Well, yeah, and I think
or
too,
just a softball field.
I think some of that was, can we get a double bang for a buck?
Yeah.
We're doing a perk test to appease our due diligence, but can we reuse that perk test for actual perk tests 5 years down the road?
Even in the event that goes through, and we invest the $9,000 in this, that's still for, just to kind of lay out what could possibly be a vision
The vision.
way down the line.
At least that's how I see it.
So that's how I've been looking at it. If I'm looking at it wrong, somebody,
No, that's how I see it as well. But we gotta start somewhere.
correct. And just in my time on the board, we've spent $9,000 repairing a John Deere tractor probably 47 times. That,
We were gonna sell.
everybody laughs, but when I first got there, I talk about a John Deere tractor, an international tractor we bought that never got used. And so, $9,000 to plan a future property seems cheap to me, so.
And I do think, when you look at the first 2, and this is, tonight was to engage the full board to know these are projects that have been talked about, not necessarily, these are givens. Here's the costs that are associated with this. I think at some point, we will have to do letter A, the HVAC, whether it's now or then. You know, one of the things we talked about is it's better to do it on our timeline versus a timeline where we have to do it. And I think that's why we're looking at, we're now approaching 23 years on the boilers, you know, and the chiller. We need to look at that. The turf needs to be replaced. The track does need to be resurfaced. I think A and B are just simple maintenance. We do need to address the tennis courts, whether it's in current place or building them. And I think basically C, D, and E are more or less, here's what the costs are if the board wants to engage. I don't know that we're saying that these are things that we absolutely should or shouldn't do. These are just ideas that have been thrown out there, have been talked about. I think the general consensus is when we saw the sticker shock of the fuel tanks in the bus, it was high. But we wanted to bring it to the board to be able to say, I think the initial estimate was like $300,000 to do the parking lot, and I think that's what Matt and Kyle eventually said, hey, we'll just do it ourselves. So $600,000 to $700,000 is way higher than what our initial cost was when we thought. And the Kissling property, one of the things we don't want to do is, you know, whether we buy this or not, we want to be prepared that, you know, and Dennis and I have kind of started laying out that vision or opportunities so that if we decide that, yes, this is a property we want to pursue, we're not then saying, okay, now what? We want to be able to be prepped, and if it's time not well spent, and we don't, hey, you know what? I think the ideas that we have been throwing out there and circulating amongst ourselves are ideas that we could circulate even within our own facilities and programs, even if we don't buy it. So the thinking and planning we're doing is challenging us to think outside the box for our existing programs and what we could bring with or without the Kissling property. So,
I'd just like to add one thing about the Kissling property. It's an opportunity that was presented to us that we probably will not see again in our lifetimes here. And either take advantage of it now or you let it go ride. I think it's an opportunity that we can do something great for our kids, and I mean all our kids in the whole district, plus maybe in the whole county. So it is going to benefit the kids when we get down to it. And but you got to have a vision for it. And but it's an opportunity that you don't get every 10 years. It's once in a generation opportunity to do something for the school district that could benefit a number of kids. So it's just, and that's my opinion. So,
You know what would look really nice down there? The AEM Ag Center.
I'm biting my
Love,
tongue.
love it.
okay, the next item that will be up for approval at the voting session is a change order. More than likely, there will be a couple that come in that will get added. This one just happens to be HVAC. There was some ductwork that was found that once they opened and exposed the ceiling, the ductwork needed to be removed, and the ductwork to do that cost was $49.68. And as I mentioned, Matt and I met with Badavia to go through change orders that are pending or out there. There are about a handful of them that will be coming in. There are some positive change orders as well that are also in that crew. There's some positive credits back for equipment we didn't use or work that didn't necessarily need to be done. So there's a mix that will eventually be coming.
Moving on to.
A should vote, that has to be voted on tonight, that's a vote, that's a vote.
Okay, do you have the numbers?
Yeah, I gave them to,
They were in the
You
packet.
should have a,
I wrote on your copy of the agenda.
it's right,
must have the wrong
right under your
Oh,
folder.
right in front of you.
So if can I add live and add season?
You just put in numbers in.
Huh?
What'd you say?
I said, can I live and change the military so I can vote for it?
Again, we're recommending a no change in the millage rate because of the, I'm saying because of the unknowns of the project, and there's, again, so this, I said this before, this is being balanced with interest. We're gonna earn $1 million in interest this year. So next year, we're gonna earn probably close to $1 million. I'm not budgeting $1 million because we've seen our interest be under $10,000 for the last 15 years. Now it's all of a sudden it's at $1 million. Well, we're going to continue to have that. It's going to go down eventually. It might go down slowly, but it's going to go down. And when it goes down faster than you think, you're going to have to replace that faster than you think. So I'm just being cautious and saying let's just keep it.
So how much you budgeting this year?
600,000. That's what's in the budget. But that could be a real number, I don't know, if rates go down. But we're still hanging around 5.25 in our investments, so.
And budget expenditures from last year, and where do you project will be out of them?
Revenue over expenditures?
No, like what we budgeted for expenditures for this current school year, you project will be under that? Or
Yeah, we're gonna be under what we budgeted.
by about how much?
$500 million, but right now it's,
Under the projected expenditures. I'm not talking revenue.
a lot of that has to do with the federal, the ESSER money. So that's a big part of it.
That they covered costs that we didn't have to cover.
Well, we didn't spend it, and we're not getting it. So it's kind of, the expenses are, we're gonna get reimbursed for what we spent. So,
Yeah. I don't know if you answered
it's not taking into account revenue.
4A is I move that we adopt the preliminary budget for the 24-25 school year with projected expenditures of $41,187,574 and projected revenues of $40,990,902, including a real estate tax millage of 25 point, is that 8?
8, yeah.
25.8, Act 511 per capita tax of $5, School Code Section 679 per capita tax of $5, and 0.5% earned income tax and 0.5% real estate transfer tax.
Fox second.
Any comments? That's the same millage rate as this year?
Yes.
It just, if you were looking to reduce it, every .1 is 97,000, roughly.
So this would be
And
the
this is
first.
preliminary. This is a preliminary budget. We have 30 days. It'll be voted on finally on June 18th. So we can make changes to this. We can make changes to this as an order should.
This is the first year in how long we're not going to lower taxes?
7 years.
I'm okay with it. 105, just to say you did it.
I can make changes to this between now and June 18th, just direction from the boss.
I think the elephant in the room says lower it just a tad, just to keep the tradition going.
So what are we looking?
Can I ask that you just see what that is and then lower it for the final? If that's what you're gonna do.
Why?
You have to change all the numbers.
Is the second HR person in here yet?
It is.
Yes.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Are we all in favor to, the actual one, at least decrease 0.05?
0.05. Oh, 0.05.
0.05.
Okay.
So the millage would go to 25.75.
Yes.
Pretty aggressive.
So it goes 25.3.
Oh, I was thinking it's 450,000. It's $40,000.
.05.
0.05, yeah.
$0.05.
So if you wanted to, you could amend the motion to direct us to, in the final budget, to reduce. So you're approving this one with the direction that in the final budget it's to be reduced by .05 or 0.1.
Right, over Thomas' version right now.
Right.
I'll amend the motion that we do the millage rate be 25.75 mils for the upcoming year. If the other things stay the same.
Fox second.
Any comments?
I can give you the revenue change.
You can talk up to you, Mark, Dave. Corner on concrete. Corner on concrete.
Don't eyeball me.
We don't offer something here, you're the concrete guy.
That's a vicious rumor.
And control environment.
I'm pretty sure we have a lot of that.
Make some.
It's concrete work up there.
Precast slabs.
I can sell.
know what
I
you
said, what
like.
did you like, though?
So the revenue, you want to change the revenue number in that motion, it would be 40,944,090. Oh, and I know. Expenditures would be the same, the revenue.
940, not over.
40,944,090.
Like I said, the motion again?
Start over.
Wait, you just amended again. And then,
I'll amend the original motion that we adopted preliminary budget for the 24-25 school year with projected expenditures of $41,187,574 and projected revenues of $40,944,090, including the real estate tax millage rate of 25.75, Act 511 per capita tax of $5, school code section 679 per capita tax of $5, 0.5% earned income tax and 0.5% real estate transfer tax.
Fox, second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Petrick,
Yes.
Lightler,
Yes.
Rissmiller,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Kester,
Yes.
Palmer,
No.
Fox,
Yes.
yeah.
4B, this is just for next meeting, we approve the following institutions as depositories for the 24-25 school year as listed there. 4C is for the next meeting that we appoint Chris Heck as the board treasurer for the term beginning July 1st, 2024, ending June 30th, 2025 for a stipend of $500. And D, that we appoint Kristen Rissmiller as board secretary for a term beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2027 for a stipend of $900. They're all for next meeting.
Yes, I amend the personnel, Mr.
5A, I move that we approve the following healthcare personnel for the 24-25 school year at the stated stipend as listed there.
Fox, second.
Any comments? Was there any increase in this cost from last year? Okay. Any other comments? Roll call?
Lightler,
Yes.
Rissmiller,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Kester,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Petrick.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's in HR now.
5B, I move to accept the following resignation as listed there.
Fox, second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Rissmiller,
Yes.
Bats,
Yeah.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Kester,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Petrick,
Yes.
Lightler.
Yes.
5C, I move that we approve the following substitute classified staff, event staff for the remainder of the 23-24 school year as listed.
Fox, second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Bats,
Yeah.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Kester,
Yeah.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Petrick,
Yes.
Lightler,
Yes.
Rissmiller.
Yes.
5D, I move that we approve the following volunteers for the remainder of the 23-24 school year as listed there.
Fox, second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Bats,
Yeah.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Kester,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Petrick,
Yes.
Lightler,
Yes.
Rissmiller.
Yes.
5E, I move that we rescind the approval of the following volunteer as listed.
Fox, second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Kester,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Petrick,
Yes.
Lightler,
Yes.
Rissmiller,
Yes.
Bats.
Yes. Moving on to curriculum, Mrs.
approved a dual enrollment agreement with Commonwealth University, formerly Williamsburg, and Kutztown University. And then the science program, Dr. Crook.
I have a 40-slide presentation.
Can I ask a question before you move on to that one?
Absolutely.
Can somebody give me the really skinny dual enrollment?
Absolutely.
Like, I don't need a hour-long conversation on this, but
So we're required to have dual enrollment agreements with universities. These two are coming up because of two unique opportunities. Commonwealth is because we have a student who's planning on attending Bloomsburg. So it's natural that if they take a course next year from Bloomsburg, it'll 100% transfer. So it doesn't cost us anything, we just need to get the formal agreement. But that's where that one came from. Commonwealth University is now Mansfield, Lock Haven, and Bloomsburg combined, so they call themselves Commonwealth, just at least. Kutztown is a unique opportunity that just came up the other month. They're starting an early college academy for education. So this is for high school students who want to get into teaching. Over 2 years, they can take 4 classes that are actually in the education major on campus and get a head start on actual education courses. So they'll come out with 12 credits and be quite ahead of everyone else. And that's at $99 a credit, so that's 75–80% off the tuition rate. And it's all about trying to get kids excited about getting into education and becoming teachers.
So you said on campus, so it's not a virtual.
Not virtual. Say no. In terms of science, I provided a one-pager, but I just wanted to recall, since September, October, I've been bringing up periodically a science trial that we've been utilizing over this course of this year. By 2025, we have to have the new steel standards fully implemented. And 2002 is the last time that the science standards were updated. When you look at a comparison of the two, the biggest difference now is that the new standards are not just about science terms and facts that kids have to know. They actually embedded science practices. So like how the students are learning is built into the standards with what they should be learning about. With that means it's a lot more hands-on and experimental. Ultimately, it's what they call phenomena-based. So instead of teaching kids, if you mix A chemical and B chemical, you'll get C. You now give them C and have them try to figure out and inquire why it works a certain way. So in October, we gave our staff an initial PD across the board at the elementary level. We had 2 grade levels at Bethel and 2 grade levels at PD. We leveraged Title IV funding to buy materials for them to work through this pilot and see how it goes. So over the course of this second half of the year, grades 2 at both buildings and then grade 5 at PB and grade 6 at Bethel have been working through this. In addition, both 7th and 8th grade middle school. After meeting with all the teachers, the students are beyond thrilled and excited about science education. Teachers have said that it's a lot of prep work, it's a lot of work on their end, but it's totally worth it because they see excitement in the kids, and it's fully implementing the steel standards. So our hope is to expand that trial because ultimately this resource, I'm fully confident, is a phenomenal resource for our kids. It also aligns with the math curriculum resource that we just adopted, so they're the same, rooted in the same style of research and how it's formulated. Our goal next year would be to bring on 3 additional grade levels at each building. So we would expand the current trial to include all units for the course of the year, bring 3 more grade levels on board. In total, we would be investing in 45 units worth of materials. Now, science materials can be a little pricey with equipment, especially at the elementary level. So what I'm proposing, if we order by May 31st or have a PO by May 31st, we get about a 15% discount versus if we wait in July. But I'm proposing that we spend, the number is a little over $81,000, $81,362.32 to bring essentially 5 out of the 7 grade levels at each building 100% on board with the steel standards, with the intent that the following year, when we have to have it fully implemented, we would only be bringing 2 more grade levels into the fold. those grade levels are kindergarten, which I'm not worried about bringing them into the fold, because they're really flexible and malleable. And then first grade is not going to be participating at PB, and it's fifth grade that's not participating at Bethel. It's nothing against anyone in particular, we were just going off of readiness and excitement in it. So this includes all lab materials that are both renewable and non-renewable. So if there's glassware, if there's heat plates, if there's grow lamps, it's all inclusive. It includes student lab notebooks and all teacher resources. Only recurring costs year to year would be the student lab notebook if we choose to go that route versus printing it ourselves, and then any non-renewable resources. But the kids themselves have enough materials to make it 2 years based on our class sizes. So that'd be kind of every other year we're replacing, at the elementary level, maybe flour, honey, different things that might be a consumable piece. In addition to that, we're not bringing it to the table yet, but I want to at least bring it to your attention. Meeting with the teachers, the only big downside is that now that we're actually instructing science, and we have all these materials, storage becomes a challenge. In addition, space. So we're in the early stages of exploring as sixth grade moves out of the elementaries, potentially taking some of those classrooms and turning them into, a makerspace type science lab. So we're early stages of that, but I wanted to at least give you the idea that step one is let's get the resources in the hands of our teachers for the kids to do science. And then step two is, can we enhance the building space so that the learning activity can happen without disruption or clutter in the classrooms.
That fits in the curriculum.
Absolutely, it fits in curriculum budget.
You need us to approve this so you can get started on all of it?
I have everything drawn up already with the rep, so that if you would approve on the 21st, then we're in good shape. But I wanted to do that legwork up front in the event that we were in support of it. I figured it wasn't going to hurt. Even if we weren't.
I'll move that we move ahead with it so you can get, I don't want to miss out on that discount.
Okay.
I'd rather have you move ahead with it and make sure.
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion that we support the science curriculum. Good.
Yeah, technically we should probably amend it.
I move that we amend the agenda to add the motion to support the science curriculum. At the tone of 81.
As presented.
As presented.
So we have to amend the agenda and then do the motion. So we need two motions.
I will second the amending of the agenda.
Any comments? Roll call.
Oh.
Boy, we used to fault me for dozing off in the meeting.
Earbuds.
Yeah, I need to.
They're right next to you.
Don't feel bad, Patrick was sleeping over there too, I saw him.
Amendment, 8B motion, or agenda amendment.
Okay, who made the motion?
Bill made the motion. Second it.
Do you want me to do
Tom,
that?
you got this for us, right? See, switching the tax rate through him, and he's like,
Right, that's true.
That's what he's working on too.
Okay, Kester,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Petrick,
yes.
Beitler,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
Yes.
Nat,
Yeah.
Kaufman.
Yes.
All right, now,
I make the motion to move the science curriculum presentation with the dollar amount for new materials.
Fox second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Petrick,
yes.
Beitler,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
Yes.
Nat,
Yeah.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Kester.
Yes.
I know, it's excellent.
Oh,
It
I
must
thought you
be
meant
this.
looking at the clock. He's on the west coast. of
Yeah, it's
Texas.
over there, that chair, it's in that corner.
Let's get out before 10.
All right. Administrative reports. The economical version this evening.
I will be very quick. Throughout a year-long PD with learning how the student's brain works, we had our culminating activity with Josh McNeil from Inmines coming to the high school, do a tour of the facility, talk to students, talk to teachers, and to look at student behavior ultimately. And we had nothing but good reviews from Josh. He was very impressed with our kids, extremely well behaved, and commented on how good the high school culture was. So I want to report back to you guys that it went very well with our visits. Thank you.
Mrs. Parsons?
I'm just going to second whatever Mr. Gammert said. I just want to thank everybody for the Tulpe Olympics we had on Friday. We had our special education students coming from elementary schools up to the high school and middle school, and they participated in various activities. They had lunch. We had a race with the administrators, and Mr. Taylor won. So it was just a wonderful experience for all the students, and the high school students did volunteer to help out in those activities.
Mr. Lynch, junior high?
The middle school report for this evening. I'll keep this very short and sweet because apparently I'm long-winded. The Academic Achievement Banquet is next Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. I hope to see you there. We are honoring 7 through 12, the highest 10 in each of those classes.
Mr. Gears?
It's about 10 seconds.
I was quick there. Last week, we finished up PSSA testing, and to celebrate, we had another very successful beach bash. The PTO knocked it out of the park. Just such a nice, fun event, seeing not just elementary school kids, but middle school kids, as well as high school kids that were Bethel alumni come down to show support. Very nice event.
So this year, our building has been talking a lot about our mission, expect, believe, and so this morning we focused on achieve. And our teachers during the meeting this morning got to meet in like cross grade level groups with different specialists, and they got to share all the achievements of their students this year and how those achievements can kind of set them up for next year to start the year off successful.
Good evening. An aspect we always keep in mind this time of year is making sure we focus and finish strong in our current year, but we're looking ahead so we have a smooth start for next year. To help accomplish this, Caitlin and I have held meetings one-to-one with all of our staff, that's support staff, paraeducators, and also our teachers. So we can look ahead, look at next year's caseload, start making schedules. A lot of the feedback we've gotten from teachers that come from other districts is this is something that typically doesn't happen until the week before school starts. So having this, we're ready to hit the ground running next year. There's still some things we need to work out, of course, but we're confident.
Just going to echo what Mr. Carson said. Just thank you all for the admin team that showed up and participated in the Tulpe Olympics. It was a really great event. And then on top of that, we also got to be part of Hawk Olympics today. So we were at Hamburg with 3 other districts. Really neat. Mr. Netzik was able to join us as well, and just had a really great turnout. We had families there, and a lot of fun.
Do you have parents come out to that at all?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we had parents both at Tulpe, and we actually had parents come and support them at Hawk Olympics as well.
I'll keep it short. I only have 2 pages tonight. I'm filling in for Ms. Bergman, so I wanted to highlight a couple things because our food services has done some awesome things recently. She was actually able to go to Seattle, Washington, April 25th through the 27th for the School Nutrition Association National Leadership Conference. Along with that, on April 24th, we were big time on Channel 69 News. I don't know if you all caught that, but I thought that was great to see our cafeteria on 69 and Jillian being interviewed. And last but not least, the Pennsylvania Farm to School Institute has accepted us into its program for the 24-25 school year. So that is fantastic. My report's much shorter. What I'd like to highlight with athletics is the next 3 Thursdays, there are events going on. So signing day, the National Signing Day for Tulpe Trojans is this Thursday the 9th at 3 o'clock, if anybody's interested. We have 6 Trojan athletes playing at the next level, which is the highest number we've had in a little while. And they are the few and the proud, and the 7% go on to participate in college athletics. So that's pretty neat. The following Thursday, the 16th, is our sports ceremony for all of our Trojan athletes throughout the entire school year. And on the 23rd is our Hall of Fame and Senior Awards Night. Thank you very much.
So I'll thank everybody for being so brief. Since the goal is 10 o'clock, I can fill 30 minutes. We're good. Kidding. So our literacy team is still moving forward. The K2 phonics group met since the last time we were here with Dr. Norris and myself. We had a draft in process. My hope is that we're going to meet next Monday. We might have a draft complete by the end of this year, which puts us a full year ahead on that part of it for the K2 phonics group. 3 and up, we are still working on the writing piece, and working with Dr. Burke right now to try to figure out how we build some time and opportunity in next year so that we can do some professional learning and working within CPLA to beef up our writing while we're working on math and curriculum. So, that's where we are.
Anybody have any old business? Raise your hand. New business. So, a couple comments I wanted to make. Had the opportunity to attend the FFA banquet. I thought the students did a great job with their part there. It was pretty neat to see them work together. I thought it was good on the students' end. Great job at Bethel Beach Bash. I got to attend that. It's always a great event. It's fun. Nev, your nose looks a little red yet. I'm sure Mr. Kirshner does.
Still finding whipped cream in my nose from a certain someone.
I was not there.
I'm not looking at you. It's the person next to you.
I feel the eyes.
There's a couple people around this horseshoe here.
Yeah, I missed you, yeah. And the other thing I wanted to comment on was some of our coaches. All our coaches, I'd probably be the first to sit here and say that our pay sometimes is not competitive for our coaching staff that we have. But I saw a Facebook post, and I actually went back and reread it to make sure I saw what I saw. But our 2 softball coaches were there on Sunday with a generator and a shop vac, vacuuming the water puddles off the field because Monday was senior. And if that don't bleed blue and gold, I don't know what does for our seniors. So I just wanted to shout out to Ashley Rank and Ashley Count for a job well done for our students. So I think it ended up getting postponed anyway from what I was told.
It was just too wet.
It was too bad, okay. But I think they had it tonight, did it go well?
Yeah.
Good.
So I had an opportunity to participate in the FFA questioning and interviewing the potential new officers for next year. And a new experience for me, but I have to say what I was most impressed with the students that were sitting beside me who are officers right now, and how they just took charge and were well-spoken and literally took charge. I just sat there and I'm like, so what do I do next? And they would guide me, and it's really neat to see. I didn't know them in the beginning when they were first, become officers, but I think they most likely have developed so much more into just leaders, whatever they go into in the future. It was neat to see.
Calendar events is listed there. Scary stuff on there. Graduation. Graduation. Anyone wish to address the board this evening? Why do you shake your head no? I didn't even ask you. You look, I'm looking out. Do you have a guilty conscience tonight or what? We will be having an executive session for personnel matters. Looking for a motion to adjourn.